Isn't it crazy that we have a podcast?
Can you guys hear that? I hope they could have heard. I
Isn't
hope
that
they heard that.
crazy?
No, it is crazy. You know what I think is kind of crazy? Nothing to do with podcasts, but let me just say this real quick because I was pulling into the driveway, or not the parking lot, and I looked over at your car, Kev, and then I looked over at your car and I saw how they were parked next to each other. And I said, and then I parked next to you guys, and then I was like, isn't it crazy how we drive?
Oh my God.
Guys, stop it. Listen to me right now. Like, isn't that crazy? How, imagine when we were little, when we were like in middle school and we did it. We were walking everywhere.
Life is flashing in front of our eyes, bro.
That is crazy to me. I know. And I parked. I said, oh my days, we're cool. We can whip
We
it.
can drive, yeah.
When I
yeah.
was little, dude, I had to walk to Conoco, to Dairy Queen. Me and Lisa were walking everywhere,
Yeah.
but we can whip it now.
You can go anywhere.
We go anywhere.
And now I'd rather just stay in my house and not do anything.
That's
Crazy.
why, dude, I owe it to my younger self to be outside.
Live your fullest life. Huh?
Mhm. Always, bro.
That is good.
Okay. Anyways, my name is Melissa. Wait, we shouldn't do our names. We know. They know.
Shouldn't. Yeah.
Okay. Hi guys, we're back. Episode 4.
There's no way that we're already like, what episode is it? No, it is 4. Yeah.
4.
Yes.
Yeah.
Episode 4 of TM with Jesus. And here we are talking about
Jonah.
in the whale's belly.
We did we taught the
I was
kids
about
one
to say
day,
that.
and me, Damali, and I were in there, and I think that was my first time teaching the kids. You had done it before, right? Prior
Yeah.
to that was my first time teaching the kids, and we taught on Jonah and how Jonah was in the belly of the whale. And oh my days, these are the youngest kids, like the little ones, the toddlers.
Like 2.
And their parents sent us videos of the kids being like, Jonah was in the belly of the whale for 3 days praying.
Isn't
that cute?
It was so cute. And it's so crazy because we just talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
And here we are talking about Jonah again.
Yes. We've been doing this. What would we call it? We say this every week.
We mentioned it last week. A series of how to grow closer to God.
Yes.
And each episode is kind of, first it was understanding your why. Then it was the intentionality behind what you do things. And today we're going to be talking about
steps. Yeah, like small habits, spiritual habits that you can take.
Yeah.
All right. We should get started. Do you want to go ahead and start with
Yeah.
Bible
We're going to read some of Jonah's story and then kind of summarize parts of it too, so that you guys can go ahead and take a deep dive through it yourselves. Make sure that you go into the word yourselves as well. It's very important for you to have that time and for you to do your own reading of the word. But we'll start with Jonah flees from the Lord. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son, I might butcher these names, I'm really sorry, Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, before its wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed to Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for the port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God. And they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us, so that we will not perish." Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for the calamity." They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, "Tell us, who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? And what is your country? From what people are you?" He answered, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, and the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." This terrified them, and they asked, "What have you done?" They knew he was running away from the Lord, because he had already told them so. The sea was getting rougher and rougher, so they asked him, "What should we do to you to make the sea calm down for us?" "Pick me up and throw me into the sea," he replied. "It will become calm. I know that it is my fault that this great storm has come upon you." So basically, Jonah was running away from the calling of God that he placed on him to go and preach to Nineveh and call them out for their wickedness. And he went and he ran away. And essentially, God put a storm upon these men. And Jonah admitted that it was his fault, that the Lord was punishing him for running away from that calling. So they threw him. Now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. From inside the fish, Jonah prayed to the Lord his God. He said, "In my distress, I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From the deep in the realm of the dead, I called for help, and you listened to my cry. You hurled me into the depths, into the very heart of the seas, and the currents swirled about me. All your waves and breakers swept over me. I said, I have been banished from your sight, yet I will look again towards your holy temple." Then this is Jonah goes to Nineveh. After he is in the belly for 3 days and 3 nights, he comes out and then he goes into Nineveh. Then the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. "Go to the great city of Nineveh and complain to it the message I give you. Do not let people or animals, herd or flocks taste anything." This is now Jonah telling the people of Nineveh, "Taste anything. Do not let them eat or drink, but let people and animals be covered with sackcloth. Let everyone call urgently on God. Let them give up their evil ways and their violence. Who knows? God may yet relent and with compassion turn from his fierce anger so that we will not perish." When God saw what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, he relented and did not bring on them the destruction he had threatened. And now in Jonah 4, his anger at the Lord's compassion, which is just crazy. But to Jonah, this seemed very wrong, and he became angry. He prayed to the Lord, "Isn't this what I said? Lord, when I was still at home, that is what I tried to forestall by fleeing to Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. Now, Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live." But the Lord replied, "It is right for you to be angry. Is it right for you to be angry?" So that's pretty much kind of a summary of Jonah's story. Kind of read a lot of it, but I still missed a lot of parts. So make sure that you guys go and complete it for your guys' selves. But isn't that so crazy that Jonah was angry at the Lord's compassion?
That's crazy. I was shocked when I was reading it. I was like, what? What do you mean? Whoa, that was crazy. He said that at the same time.
Oh my goodness.
That's crazy. But no, it's so crazy. Essentially, the takeaway out of this that I got was that Jonah's issue was never a lack of faith in God's power, because he said it there. He knew. But it was a lack of motivation and reluctance to follow through and obey God on what he had entailed for him to do.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy, because how many times have we been a Jonah? You know,
a lot of times.
A lot of times. But that was really interesting. That's a really good story.
It is a really good story. I think a lot of the times it's, which is like really sad to say, but I think like starting off when I first started my walk with God, a lot of these stories like I brushed off as like, oh, like they're the stories when we learned we were younger. When we were younger, like they're like not insignificant, but we just didn't turn to them as like major stories that we could relate into our lives. And I think now looking back at it, like how you said, how many times have we been a Jonah? How many times have we ran away from the calling of God? And how many times has he had to put us in that storm and put us in the fish's belly so that we can lock in and wake up? And it's actually crazy.
No, exactly. And it's so crazy because to me, what I think about that's so crazy is that it really took him having to be in the belly for him to realize, like, hey God, like it took God like twice, telling him twice to do something when he should have just listened the first time.
The first
And
time.
it wasn't because he didn't believe God. It was just because he lacked some type of motivation, some type of, just, it was obedience. He was just being stubborn and allowing his
Mhm.
emotions to dictate what he was going to do next, which is crazy.
That is crazy. And correct me if I'm wrong, but in Jonah 4, where he said he was angry with the Lord's compassion, and he explained, I knew back when I ran away from Nineveh and to Tarshish, I knew that you were a gracious God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he was angry. And I think that a lot of the times we take God's grace
Mm-hmm.
for, I guess, in for advantage. How do you say that? What's that
No,
phrase?
yeah.
Like we take it for granted
Take for granted. Yeah.
because we're like, oh, God is gracious. Like
Mhm.
I can sit in my emotions and I can be afraid, but God is gracious over me. It's going to be fine. But sometimes it's not about his grace. It's not about
Mhm.
the grace that he has over you. It's about the obedience that you're going to have for him because of his grace, because of who he is.
That's so good.
That is
No, that is
crazy.
good. And especially too, like when I was reading this, I was reading it today, and it just, I was realizing, I'm like, and we were talking about this earlier before we came on, how um we sometimes don't realize how faith without obedience
Mhm.
falls short. So like in that moment, the struggle of Jonah was that he ran from God's command. It talks about it in Jonah 1:3.
Mhm.
And it was because he didn't want to see Nineveh.
Nineveh. Yeah.
Nineveh.
Mhm.
He didn't want to see Nineveh spared. And I'm so amazed at the fact that Jonah believed in the power that God had and the power that he had entailed, right? But he resisted his plan. And to me, that's so crazy to, you know, but you still choose to just do the opposite of that.
Mhm.
And it just comes to show that true faith is more than just believing. It's that surrendering. Like you have to
Mhm.
surrender to God, because at the end of the day, like you can believe it, but without the obedience, you fall short. You're not, it's worth nothing. Faith
Yeah.
without works,
It's dead.
nothing. It's
Mhm.
dead. So I thought that was really interesting. I was like,
That is really interesting. And in real life examples, like putting it into practical terms, like I think you mentioned this one time in Bible study. You were having a Bible study with someone and they told you, like, I know everything that I need to do. I know that I need to do these things. I know that I need to read my Bible. I know that I need to pray and fast, but I just don't do it. I just can't do it. So, like, what would you say to someone who is in that dilemma of, like, I know what I need to do, but I just can't do it? I just don't do it.
I think that everything is rooted within your heart. And something
Mhm.
that I realized recently, it took me a while to realize this, is um it's important to recognize that resistance as a spiritual signal. What I mean by that is that
That's
everything
good.
is very much rooted. There's always a reasoning behind everything. So
Mhm.
if you don't want to do something, because at the end of the day, it is all led by emotion. So if you are sitting here, let's say, I'll use myself as an example. I struggle a lot with a lot of different things, but the one thing that I've been working on recently is fasting. I've been
Mhm.
trying to just get better at fasting. It's such a flesh thing. And I had to really sit down with myself and confront myself, because it's really rooted, it's deep.
Mhm.
There's a reasoning behind why I don't want to do it. Do you know what I mean? So when you know what you should be doing and you choose to not do it, you have to really sit there and ask yourself, why am I not doing this? Because there's always
Mhm.
a reasoning. Um, you have to ask God. I had to really sit there, and it's an uncomfortable prayer because you're outing yourself.
Yeah, you're
No
asking
one
God.
wants to admit their wrongs. And you had to realize like that resistance is coming from somewhere, whether it's
Mhm.
pride, whether it's fear, whether it's, for me, in the past, when I was really trying to grow spiritually, I had a lot of fear. And this is so crazy because I feel like not that many people, or maybe people do feel like this and no one ever speaks about it,
Mhm.
but I had a fear of changing. Like, I don't know if that makes sense,
Mhm.
but I knew that if I were to do these things, I was no longer going to be that Melissa that I was comfortable with. Does that make sense? I was going to become new. Me going on my mission trip, I've told you this before. I get scared sometimes because I know come August, I'm going to be a different person. And that scares me because
It's
I
good.
feel like I don't know. I know I am, but my flesh in me sometimes is like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't know if I'm ready to fully transform. Um, so it's something that you have to really come to terms with God and talk to God about it because it's always deeper. Resistance is always rooted in something bigger in you. What about you?
Yeah. I go back to this moment. I think we were in Bible study with Pastor Josh. I was talking about PJ, Pastor Josh.
PJ.
But he's great. And I remember, I don't remember what the question was, but we were talking about how we deal. I was talking about how I deal with like God, and sometimes I'm very avoidant. I'm very avoidant in the sense of like sometimes if I'm like quote unquote going through it, like I fall into the pattern of like I don't want to read my word. I don't want to. It's so easy because we're flesh and we, how you said, we go with our feelings. But then Pastor Josh asked me like, okay, well, how are you with conflict? When conflict comes, like, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm avoidant. I'm an avoidant person. Like I avoid
That's
conflict in my life. I avoid anything that's going to make me uncomfortable. And it's like it is deeper than that. Like why are you avoidant? What takes you what brought you to the point where you don't like to deal with conflict? What made you have your walls up? So it's like it like you said, it's really all about going into that secret place with God and asking him to reveal the things of your heart and the things that perhaps you haven't dealt with, things that maybe come from childhood as well. And it, like you said, it really is deeper. It really is about searching your heart. And
good.
sometimes it's not as difficult because I think when Pastor Josh asked me the question, I was like, oh, like the enemy. But then he was like, I think sometimes we give the enemy too much power. I think sometimes it really is about your own heart and
Good, Simone.
what you haven't dealt with yet. And you need to really ask God to like deal with that. And that's so important. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's so good. That's good. Come on, make note. Because that is good. It's
Yeah.
true. We do give the enemy so much power. That's crazy. Another point that I really liked was not that I liked, but I found interesting was how once Jonah prayed when he was in the belly of was it the fish?
The well.
The whale?
Right? Fish well.
When he was
Un pez.
when he was in, he was in the stomach of the whale. I'm gonna say whale because I feel like a whale's bigger. And that makes more sense.
Yes.
On here it says fish, but I'm gonna say whale. But anyways,
I think it's depicted as a well too in like VeggieTales and stuff like that, right?
I'm gonna do that.
Like I think that's why a lot of times we go and say
sense
well.
too if you think about it. But
theologically speaking,
says fish. But the Bible says fish. So I'm gonna say fish. You're right. But when he was in the stomach of the fish, and he was praying and he was like, God, like, he was crying out to God. He said, I call to you from the land of the dead. He was, pretty much
in distraught.
He was distraught. He was like, God, like my bad. Like, and that's when God was the fish, what is it called? The fish spit him out. And when he spit him out, God was like, all right, like get up and go to the great city of Nineveh and deliver the message I have given you. So he goes, like, he's like, all right, like I'm gonna do it. Like there's no choice now. He goes. And in that moment when you're reading it, you could probably think, oh, he obeyed. Like, that's so good. Like he realized he did it, that's great. And then you get to Jonah 4 and he's complaining because God spared their life. And he starts telling him, like how you mentioned, didn't I say before I left home that you would do this? Like he's mad, just kill me now. And then the Lord like tells him, is it right for you to be angry about this? So then Jonah ends up going to he ends up going and sitting, and it says that God arranged a leafy plant to grow to like cover like the sun, and he was very grateful for the plant. And then God arranged for a worm the next morning to eat the plant. And then there goes Jonah getting mad, and he starts like getting really, really frustrated, and he's like telling God, like, death is certainly better than living like this. Then God said to Jonah, is it right for you to be angry because the plant died? Yes, Jonah retorted, even angry enough to die. Then the Lord said, you feel sorry about the plant, but you did nothing to put it there. It came quickly and died quickly. But Nineveh had more than 120,000 people living in spiritual darkness, not to mention all the animals. Shouldn't I feel sorry for such a great city? And when I was reading that, it made me realize how, yes, he might have outwardly done the right thing and going and telling them, like, hey,
Ooh.
like, you know, this is what God said, like, you guys. But then right when it didn't go his way, he crashed out. Like, he got mad. And when I was doing my notes and I was reading this, it made me realize, like, it's important for us to allow God to change our hearts, not just our actions. So, like, he obeyed outwardly and you were able to see it, but his heart stayed hard because at the end it got shown, you know? So, like, I wrote on here, God isn't just looking for performance, he's looking for a connection and heart transformation. Because at the end of the day, like, Jonah obeyed, but his heart wasn't fully surrendered. And we can sometimes fall into doing spiritual habits out of duty or guilt.
Yeah.
Well, I'll read the Bible because I have to. Like, I have to read at least one verse today, or I'll do this. I'll even go further. Sometimes even in ministry, I'll do this. I'll get up here and sing because I'm scheduled. I'll get up here and teach because, I have to do it. And it becomes this performance rather than it being a connection, a heart transformation, like allowing God to really dwell in you. And something that when I was doing that, I asked God, I'm like, God, like, allow me, like, I need you to help me to, like, change that if I am like that, you know, not just follow you because out of duty, not because I'm scheduled on a Sunday, not because I'm scheduled on a Thursday, not because Brother Josh tells us that we need to read a verse but like, genuinely help me do this because I want to, and I want to do it out of connection and because I want to get closer to you. And with Jonah, we saw there where he was mad at the end, and it just revealed his true colors. Like, he didn't even care that God had spared, 120,000 people's lives, and he was mad about a plant. Oh my God. That's
so
crazy. How you know God has so much grace, dude, because I would have crashed out.
That is crazy. And I really like how you mentioned the transformation piece. That's why we see people sadly serve for so long and, like, quote unquote, live their life for God for so long. And then you still ask yourself, like, why are they still like this? Like, why are they still, even ourselves, not even take it too far. Like, sometimes we're like, why am I still dealing with this? Why haven't I, like, been able to walk away from this anxiety? Why haven't I been able to walk away from certain thoughts of the past? And it's because it's like, are you doing these things just because you don't want to go to hell, or are you doing them because you want to truly be transformed by his word? Do you truly want him in you?
That's good.
Like, it's a crazy thing if we don't like the intention behind it. If our intentions aren't there, going back to last episode, a little promo, go watch last episode where we talked about intentions, but it truly bleeds into this because it's like you're doing these tasks, but you need to be right with God and ask him to have your heart in the right posture so that you can be transformed by it and not just later on get lost in why you're doing things or get mad at God like Jonah.
No, I agree. That's good. That's really good. Another thing too that, like, I thought about, and this, like, I don't know. I want, like, tell me what you think about this because when I was reading it, this is how I interpreted it, but I don't know if, like, maybe you interpret it this way, but with everything that was going on, I feel like, and this happens to us sometimes, where we get so caught up on everything that we forget to celebrate, like, the small wins. Do you know what I mean? And, like, Jonah at the time, like, I feel like he was so frustrated and caught up on his emotion and, like, what he was feeling that, like, he couldn't even just celebrate the win that, I mean, God used him still. And, like, he wasn't able to sit there and celebrate that win of what, God did through him. And it's so crazy because I'm like, how many times do we get so caught up on, like, all the bad things that we don't celebrate the good things? And something that we talked about in Bible study is, like, how sometimes you do have to just celebrate, like, hey, I read a Bible verse today.
Mm-hmm.
I prayed. I fasted today. I did this. And you just have to be thankful, you know? And I think about Jonah, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you think
No, I
about.
definitely agree with that. I literally just like had that like dawn on me yesterday. Again, talking to Pastor Josh, we were talking about like the like media and how, because like we're learning a lot of new stuff in our church, because it's like a whole new production system. Everything's new every week, and there's a lot of L's that we take every service because it's new stuff. But within that, there's a lot of also small wins. And I just had a moment where I was like, wow, like you were right, PJ. Like there is a lot of small wins that we do need to be celebrating, because I was getting caught in a cycle of like, oh man, like it was another rough Sunday. Like, we couldn't get the lyrics to work again. We couldn't get the live stream sound. We couldn't get this. And it's so easy to just like get stuck in that cycle of emotions, because it's like you're looking at the cup. What are you looking at the cup as? Half full or half empty?
That's good.
And it's also, that goes back to celebrating your wins. You need to look at the cup half full, so that you can have that encouragement from God, because it's essentially like God is celebrating those wins with you as well.
Yeah.
He's gracious with us, and he's like, I'm sure he was happy with Jonah that he finally like went through with his calling to go to Nineveh. But then it's like, because Jonah was looking at the cup half empty, he continued to complain with everything that came after. So it's really important to not be like Jonah and look at the cup half full. Celebrate those wins.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, like each small step, each small victory builds that spiritual hunger. It builds spiritual maturity. And I think that that's a win. Like I get so excited when I think about us, when I think about us and like a year ago, 2 years ago, and I just think like every year I feel like we're just going more and more in. And I think that that wouldn't have happened if we didn't acknowledge and celebrate the small wins that we did do. Like the little ones where we'd be like, we read one verse.
Yeah. Imagine if we were looking at like all of the times we failed. Oh Lord. We would have been like,
crazy.
We give up. Why are we doing this? I can't do this anymore. But no, it's really important to obviously have a balance. Look at where your shortcomings are and work on that. But don't forget to celebrate the victories. Yeah. I also like how you always used to mention, you still do, but where it's like, take it one step at a time. It's take little bites of it. Don't try to just go in and do everything, because especially it depends too on like the type of person that you are. But if you try to go in and eat the whole cake in one bite, that's not going to work out. Like you can't do that. So you need to go little by little. First start with one verse a day. Listen to a podcast, one podcast throughout the week. Pray for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then maybe build it up each week. Wake up if the earliest you can wake up at is 9 a.m. Okay, if you feel like it should be earlier, do 1 hour earlier the next week. So take it like one step at a time, because that's a really easy way to fall into looking at the negatives versus the positives.
That's really good. So I had a question for you.
Is this a DM dive or no?
No.
Okay.
With with what we were talking about Jonah and how his emotions, he was just kind of a negative Nancy. We'll just say it like that, right? How do you how would you describe, or how would you, when it comes to, we were talking about this earlier, bad emotions, how would you address that? My wording to this question is so bad, but I think you kind of understand what I'm trying to say, because we spoke about this earlier. I just don't know how to word it.
How do you deal with bad emotions? How do you deal with bad emotions? I think you mentioned it in the last episode of calling it out. Like as soon as you hear it, everything starts with a thought. It all starts with a thought. Before you're even able to act on it, before you're able to say anything, it starts up here. A lot of the times, it comes from, honestly, most of the time, it comes from your past. Whatever it may be. Maybe it's triggered by a similar situation that you were just put in a year ago. with an old friendship, with an old relationship, with even down to like childhood, like I mentioned earlier, like with your parents. We're talking about it earlier about a victim mentality. A lot of the times we live just being like, okay, well, I feel like this, I react like this because of how I grew up, or I react like this because I was in a 3-year long toxic relationship. Like, I'm triggered by this. Okay, you recognized it. Now give it to God. Fully surrender. Fully submit yourself and submit those thoughts to God. Because if you don't, you're going to continue to live your life in a victim mentality.
That's good.
And you're never going to be transformed by God, and you're never going to be able to complete his will over your life.
That's so good.
I don't know if that answered the question.
No, that answered it so perfectly. That is really good. Just to add one thing to that, because you took my words. That was so good, Molly. I think too is just acknowledging and just how you said, call yourself out, especially because our goal is to always try your hardest, to be an ambassador of Christ. What would God do? And that
is so good.
Like, that puts so much, when I go through things and I struggle so much because I get so easily annoyed. And I always tell myself, I'm like, no, Melissa, like, what would God do? Like, God has grace. God, you can't. And I think that when you change your perspective to that, it really does make a difference, And I love my pastors because I see Karina, and I feel like we're always talking.
I know we are always talking about them.
But I see Karina and I see Brother Josh as well. But I feel like I just,
as a woman,
I resonate and I like really connect a lot with Karina. And she's just so strong. Like, it's so crazy because I know that she's encountered a lot of things, especially in ministry. She's dealt with so much, and I know it's never been easy. But one thing I can say is that she's always had a smile. She's always happy. She never takes it out on anyone. She's always just really being an ambassador of Christ. And when I look at her and I see that, I just like, no, like, that's how I need to be. That's how we need to be. We need to try our hardest to just always show the fruits of the Spirit. Just always just have those reflecting, And it does take calling yourself out and just in order for the problem is that you have to realize that it's an issue. You know what I mean? Like, you have to acknowledge it. So like the first step is you have to really look at yourself. There's a lot of traits to myself that I fight a lot with because I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. And I've had to really sit there and be like, you know what? Like, this is an ugly trait of yours. I used to be so petty, like really, really bad, really, really bad. And maybe that's just because I'm like an argumentative person and I just love to, but I had to realize like that's not okay. Like it's really not, and it affects relationships, friendships, family. It affects everything. And you have to first come to the terms that some of your traits are not okay. And you have to really, really look at your situation. And I always tell you this. It goes back to intentions. But me and Dabali were talking about this the other day. And there's times where even I might think something, but I know the intention. Like, I know that maybe it'll get a reaction that it shouldn't get. So I'll know, like, no, I can't be doing, like, I can't say that. Like, God, I'm sorry that I even thought that. Like, you just have to really look at situations from a different perspective. We talk about friendships. Obviously, we're going to go more in depth one day when we have our topic on that. But I'm very intentional with my friends where I'm not going to say something that's going to hurt them because of the fact that I know, one, that's not Christ-like, but two, So I think you have to really, really be okay with knowing. That, like, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense. I hope that makes sense. But you have to be okay with knowing that some traits are not okay.
You have to be willing to put yourself under that microscope. You have to let God examine you, and you have to let yourself, after he examines you and he calls you out, you have to be like, okay, I hear you. I'm open. I'll do it.
Yeah. And last thing that I want to say before we go into DM dive is
Mhm.
just trust God's timing, even if it's slow,
Yes.
because spiritual habits are going to be slow. You're not going to get this overnight. You're not
Mm-mm.
going to all of a sudden start reading chapters every day and praying 3 hours, 4 hours. You're not going to do these things. You're not, just have patience. Jonah was so quick to react. He was so quick to just want to get it done.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're like that. We're
Mhm.
very much like that. But God loves that journey, that like time that it takes. And it's just very important to dwell in that. It's okay. It's okay for it to take some time. Just
Mhm.
let it take time and like stay consistent even when it feels dry. Even when your
Oh, that's
season
so
feels
good.
dry, just stay
Mhm.
consistent because those are the times that God is testing you to see what you're going to do next. And you can come out of that, you'll come out victorious
Mhm.
out of that season. And I think that's so beautiful. And God's with you all the time. So, but I
Yes.
don't know if you want to add anything else to that.
Just exactly how you said it. Like, have grace over yourself because God has grace over us. Like, God had grace over Jonah, and if Jonah could be this,
Mm-hmm.
this
He was so
petty,
patient, huh?
yeah, he was
God
very
was
patient with
patient.
Jonah. And if he can be patient with Jonah, he could be patient with you every
Exactly.
step of the way. And like how you said, enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Like, God loves to see this journey. And I look back at like where we were at a couple years ago, and now obviously we look back and we're like, wow, that's so beautiful how God
Mm-hmm.
transformed us. But I'm sure that there was point in times where we're like, "Ugh, I wish that we could just skip over this part. Like, I wish we could just get this right finally."
Yeah.
But it's like, enjoy the journey while you're in it.
And then the last question I want to leave you guys with, we don't have to answer this, but I
Okay.
want to leave everyone with this question because God put this in my heart. And when He put this in my heart today, I was like, so I need you guys to also be, I'm just kidding. But, but when I was praying and I was, in my own devotion, the question that came up was, where in my life am I obeying God outwardly but resisting Him inwardly? And that's a hard thing to come to truth with. And that's something that we all need to just sit there and
Oh, Kevin said say it one more time.
we just need to stay there and, you know, the question is, where in my life am I obeying God outwardly but resisting Him inwardly? So it's something that we just all need to meditate. When God placed that in my heart, I was at work, you guys, because I'd be doing this in between, like when I'm talking to clients. And I just sat there and I'm like, wow. Because you can get caught up.
Mm-hmm.
You can get caught up if you don't acknowledge it. But we're gonna go on
That
to
is so
DM
good.
dive. I'm so excited because we didn't do it last week. Oh,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
didn't
we
do it
did it.
the week before. We got a few questions this time. And then we have one from last time that we didn't answer. Should we still?
Maybe we could answer. We also were debating on like doing some of these DM dives on our social media.
Yes, yes, yes.
So we might do the
That's good.
one on intentionality on our social media. So
Okay,
if you
yes,
send something in for that, keep an eye out for
yes.
that on
I
our
like that.
socials.
I like that. I like that. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring them up. Sorry, there's a lot.
That's a good thing. That's
That's a
really
good thing. Yeah.
Shout out.
There's some little like funny ones. And there's one specifically for you actually.
No way.
Let me see.
I'm scared. That's so funny because I was literally just like, okay, if I can't answer it right away, I'm gonna have Melissa answer it.
I'll go ahead and do this one first. It's on you.
On me?
Yeah. Like
Okay.
it's about you. Like it's a question to you.
Oh, okay.
Okay. What was Sister Molly's first experience / thoughts at a Pentecostal church?
That is so good.
Mm-hmm. I've always wondered that. So we've talked about it,
yeah,
but
we have talked about it. Honestly, I was obsessed. No, but I really was like, I was at a really low point in my life, and I think I was just searching for community, and everyone was so loving and so welcoming. I had gone to other churches of different denominations, and I just never felt so much at home because of the people, because they truly loved on me and they truly deeply cared for me. They right away gave me their numbers, said, I'm here for you, whatever you need. I felt like it was home, like right away. Like those were my first thoughts,
That's beautiful.
just because of the people. And it wasn't that like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it wasn't just because it was a church, because I had gone to other churches. It was specifically the people of this church. And then the
Aw.
praise. That was another thing that stuck with me. Like the praise of everyone there. Like, it was beautiful. I always tell Melissa this. And we
Aw.
laugh about it, but
Oh, I know what you're gonna
I've
say.
gone to huge churches with huge productions, and like, they have the fog machines and they have like the whole setup and everything's just like amazing. It's beautiful. But it's something about our worship at RT that just hit different. It was so humble. We didn't even have the drums with the cage. Like, it was just so like,
Mm-hmm.
it was so humble, and it wasn't a huge production, but you could feel God a way that I hadn't felt God in other places.
Mhm.
So I think that would be my take on it. Like, the people truly love you, and the worship is, you feel God through it, regardless of the size of the production or the team.
Did you ever feel like it was different? Like, were you
Oh yeah.
like not different where, oh, I feel different here? Like, no, like, I always ask you this because I don't know why, I always get curious. But did you feel like, whoa, like this is a little different, like it's a little odd? Like, did you ever have those feelings where it was like it was?
Yes, because I'm human, and I was like, this is different. People look different.
Mm-hmm.
People worship different. Everything about it is different. But I think that that's where like the beauty of it came, because I saw
Aw.
how on fire everyone was for God, and how willing they were to give up things of this world for God. Like, it would, like, of course it was a sacrifice, but it was beautiful to see like you on your walk with God, and how I watched God slowly transform you, and you walk away from things that at some point you were like, I'm never going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how like, it was truly God. So I think that like, I was taken away because it was very different in a lot of ways. But I also thought that it was a beautiful thing because I saw how rooted it was like with God.
Mm-hmm. I have another question, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Was it ever hard in the sense like not adjusting but understanding, like, do you know what I mean?
Yes, it was hard. I think in the beginning, because I'm human, I didn't have certain convictions at first. But because I was going into a place where other people had already walked through those convictions with God, I felt like I needed to. And I think that in the beginning, I did begin to try to do things that I wasn't truly feeling. I hadn't yet connected with God about that. I wasn't in that stage of my walk with God. And I do think that I rushed into it in the beginning. But because I like checked myself with God, I asked God, hey, I'm doing these things, but I'm not quite sure of anything yet. I don't know what this means. And to be quite frank, I don't know if I should be doing it because I don't know what it means. And God checked me, and he was like, you know what? You're not there yet. You're not ready. You don't understand. And you don't have to do anything that I haven't convicted you of. And then I just kind of reverted back to the beginning, and I had to restart my walk with God in that sense of like understanding conviction and understanding that it needs to be very, very personal.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Alrighty, I have another question. So someone said, what advice would you give someone who is struggling with connecting with their church family? I think that I feel like we've all been there. And it's so hard because some people don't have like an external family. I don't know if that's the proper term, but they don't have a worldly, like they don't have their family,
Oh, yes.
like an immediate family. So they really do rely a lot on their church family. So when that's not there, like it gets a little hard. But the advice I would give you is to try to, I don't know like the circumstances. So I don't know if you are like introverted. I don't know if,
That is a huge
but
thing, yeah.
I would try to connect with one person. And if you have already, and let's say that no one's really reciprocating, then this is the most cliche thing that I could say. But I would really, really pray about this because God hears and God answers.
Amen.
Trust.
It's real.
It's real.
He's real.
And his word is real. And if his word says, I will answer you, like, trust, he will answer you. And I would pray to God and I would tell him what you're feeling, those emotions, because you don't have to go through that alone. It's a really hard thing to deal with, but you don't have to do it alone. That's God's battle and he'll fight it for you. But if it's something where maybe you guys were already close, everyone was close, and then everyone's kind of like going through that season where everyone's kind of doing their own thing, I would try to have grace and understand that this isn't about you.
Yeah.
Don't feel like it's
Huge.
personal. And just pray about it. So it really does depend on which category it fits in. If you're an introvert, I would try to find one person, at least one person to talk to. The thing about people in church too, most of the times I hope it's like this everywhere, but everyone's so nice. Everyone's so nice. I think that if you tell someone, I don't know if you're a youth or hyphen, but if you tell someone in your youth or hyphen that you're wanting a community, they'll bring you along.
Yes, I
Trust.
agree.
But
That was a really good answer. I think like how you explained, it is very different in the on the culture of your church and the type of person that you are, the size. Maybe you guys don't even have that many
that's good.
many youth, maybe many hyphen like people of your age, so that could be a big thing. But I really agree with you. I think just finding one person, and also maybe this is because I'm weird. I'm like introvert / extrovert. Like I can be both. I think once I'm comfortable, like I could be both. But even like me, even like recently, I'm like, oh, like we have it because we're renting our church, and it's hard to have events and to really like feel connected. But sometimes I'm like, maybe it just takes one person to do that take that initiative and be like, hey, can we do this? Just yesterday, you know what I'm gonna say?
It's just real quick possible. I said, can we have a field day?
I think that would be so cool.
And then everyone in our group, like the hyphen and the youth, are like, somebody says, we could bring other churches and we'll all compete. And I feel like because we're all very much like, girl, we do not want to be running and doing all of that. And I'm like, we need to do this. Like, this would be so much fun. She wanted to do it in the next 2 weeks.
I said we could do it.
We need to get in shape. But anyways, I'm sorry. Go.
But I truly think that like sometimes if you do feel comfortable with it, maybe speak up. Like maybe just tell one person. Like,
that's good.
Let's do. You did this other day. We're like, okay, we need to be more connected to our girls. Let's do a sleepover. Let's have a girl sleepover. Let's. Maybe if not everybody's able to come, let's just do one person. And next time, let's do it with the other person. Just like if you feel comfortable enough to it, take that initiative.
Yeah.
If you are all already like close-knit family vibes.
That's good. And honestly, just take a look at your church and I can guarantee there's at least one person in your church who's the like takes initiative, like is the one that,
and then you
if there
find them.
isn't, and if there isn't, then you be that person.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely think there's always that one person for sure.
Yeah.
So if you can find that one person, then you just tap them real quick and be like,
whisper. Yeah.
yeah. Because I feel like I'm very much the type where I take initiative. I'm like, all right, like you guys. So I'm like, I think about if someone were to come up to me and be like, hey, like I want to have more, like, I'd be like, say less.
Okay.
All right.
We got it. Let's do it.
But that was good. That was a really good, I like that.
Those are good questions. Those are really good questions.
Well, it's that time where we all dread. It's the end. Because you guys want to just stay with us. But we were talking about this, about we're going to start posting more on TikTok, on we're posting on TikTok, on obviously YouTube, on our Instagram. We're going to be more intentional with our post. So just keep an eye out for that. I just wanted to say that. If you want to go ahead and end in prayer, Damali.
Yes. Sorry, Karina called me.
Oh no,
I was like, sis.
We need you on the pod.
Are you free on that? Just kidding. No, but actually. Stop laughing at us, Kevin. This is a really good episode. All right. Take us out in prayer. Thank you, Jesus, for allowing us to be here today, God. I pray that this word can go with each and every one of us for the rest of the week, that we're able to truly meditate on the story of Jonah, God. Allow for us to understand the season that we're in and the calling that you have placed over us in our lives. Let us be faithful and go forth in the word that you have spoken over us, God. Let us see the small victories and be fulfilled in what you are doing in our lives. Don't let us be dismayed by the losses that we experience, because we know that you have grace over us. In Jesus' name, I pray that you draw us closer to you each and every day. Amen.